Ladies, just setting up. This is the time to get ready and to get comfortable. And we are live. This is Summer Spotlights. Summer Spotlights is a series of conversations with women from different fields of work and business. These conversations, ladies, they're for you to empower you, to enlighten, to inspire, and encourage you. Every Thursday evening from 8 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ladies, this is another conversation with another powerful woman. I have the honor this evening to have a conversation with Tania Adderley. Tania, welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me today, Aisha. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. So, Tania Adderley is a worshiper, a singer, songwriter. We're going to hear more about her journey. And before she gets to the journey, ladies, I'm not sure if you heard, but I go and grab your cup of tea because we're in for a treat. So, I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. And then we're going to find out a bit about who Tania Adderley is. So, quickly go get it, get comfortable. Tania, let's get started. Can you please share with the audience a few things about who Tania Adderley is?
Wow, that's a tough one. I guess I'll start with the roles that I play. That's probably the easiest. So I am a pastor's wife. We pastor at a church in downtown Toronto. I am a mother and proud of it. Love my kids. Absolutely love my kids. I am a Surprisingly, I had the opportunity to contribute to an anthology. So now I am a best-selling author, which is incredibly surprising and exciting. And I lead worship. That's a passion of mine. I write music. I do a whole lot of different things, but I always tell people that my highest qualification is being a child of God. That's first and foremost, and everything else just flows from that place.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing a bit about who you are and the different roles that you play. Awesome. And so we are going to continue this conversation. And so the field that you are in, that we're talking about this evening, is as a worshiper and a singer songwriter. And so, can you tell us about this field that you're in and the change that you want to bring in this particular field?
Well, worship is an absolute passion of mine. And ladies, I'm telling you, if there's one thing that I could encourage you to do, is to uh, bask in the presence of God. Because worship has everything to do with focusing on who God is, and as opposed to praise, which is what He does. So, as I mentioned before, I do lead worship. So I've been doing that since I was a teenager, which was not too long ago. And but in terms of that, my objective in leading worship is to encourage people to seek the manifest presence of God, to seek His heart, not the goosebumps or the tears or the experiences per se, but just to seek God's heart, to hear what He desires to share with us. Because as big as God is, as amazing and vast as God is, He's a very personal God, and we see that. And from Genesis to Revelation, that He's a personal God. And so everything that God has done is in the hopes of establishing personal relationship with us. So, ladies, I just want to encourage you and just let you know that amidst all the people that are on planet Earth, God sees you. He sees you as an individual. He sees your heart, your need, your dreams, your highs, your lows, what makes you smile, what drives you crazy, everything. He loves everything. He endeavors to have a relationship with us, to be close to us, to share his heart with us, and we in turn can have a chance to get to know who he is. And we have a lifetime to do that.
That's awesome. And what a change that you want to bring. And I love that encouragement towards ladies that you are bringing this evening, because sometimes we may feel in a world with so many people, does God see us? And you reminded us this evening that absolutely He does see us, He does care for us. Even the minute details that maybe nobody else cares about, He certainly cares about them. And it's a great way that through songwriting, through singing, through worshiping to God, that that can be um, the purpose, the focus, you know what I mean? And just lifting up the name of the Lord, you know? And so thank you for sharing that. And so I know that one of the songs that you have written is called Mighty Woman. And so I listened to it again this evening. And can you tell the audience, tell us, where did this song come from? Like, how did you come up with it?
It's Mighty Woman has a very special place in my heart, and I would always hear the expression that God sings songs over us, right? We see that in the Old Testament, how God sings songs over us. And so, strangely enough, Mighty Woman was not a song that I came up with. It wasn't something that I sat down with at my desk and had a pen and the glorious cup of tea. Shout out to tea drinkers, or coffee. We like coffee. We can have coffee. Um, but I wasn't endeavoring to write this song. It found me, and I was just going through my day, and it was literally as though God was singing that over me, that he dropped the idea right into my lap. And I thought, wow. At first, when I heard the idea in my head, I was like, wow, I like this song. I like this song. It's so encouraging and so empowering. And then over time, I had taken a sabbatical several years later. I would say about 7 years between the concept of the song, I would say, and actually preparing to release the song. And I realized that over those 7 years that I happened to be struggling quite a bit, and I didn't realize, with shades of self-image issues. And sometimes we have issues as women with body image, self-concept, and sometimes we wrestle even with feelings of inadequacy, like, am I a good parent, am I a good wife, am I doing a good job at work? And so we can get caught up in the roles that we play, and kind of lose sight of our identity as daughters of God. We just get focused in on the doing and the performance piece. And so somewhere along the line, various things had happened in my world, and a lot of them were really great, and there were some things that were a little bit discouraging. And I found that somewhere along the line, I had slowly lost shades of my confidence in terms of what I thought I could do, or my potential. And so at the same time, as much as I felt that, I felt at the same time that God was calling me to release this song, and to encourage myself, but also to encourage the body of Christ, to encourage women and say, you know what, in Christ we find strength. In Christ we have the capacity to do everything that we're called to do. God is not is fully aware. God is very much aware of the responsibilities that we have, the roles that we play, and He gives us the capacity to do everything. The Bible tells us in the book of Peter, He gives us everything that we need for life and godliness, and so He gives us the grace to do everything that we need to do. But in going through the process of releasing the song, I found that God was not just saying, release the song to encourage people, but understand that the song was a declaration over my life, bringing breakthrough. The parts of my life that were feeling inadequate or were feeling less than, God was declaring over me, this is who I say you are. And His word is the final word. And I tell people that Him being Alpha and Omega tells us that God has the first and the last word, and He controls everything in between. So we can rest in who God says we are. Whatever He says is truth, right? And He doesn't lie. So every time I went into the studio and got into that booth with the microphone, I had to declare, I am a mighty woman of God. Not because I felt it, not because I had achieved some greatness, but because God said in Him, I am mighty. And so, ladies, that is who you are. You know, our identity is founded on Christ, and He is our strength, and He is our empowerment. He is our capacity to live out our life purpose. We are more than what others say we are, even what we think we are. God sees so much more, and we're able to do so much more in and through Him.
That's awesome. That is awesome because sometimes songwriters, they may just sit down and write the song that comes to them, but in this case it was God singing that or singing his truth over you, that this is who you are. And so, ladies, some of the words that are in the song Mighty Woman are content, confident, fearfully and wonderfully made, powerful, mighty, being a woman of virtue, nobility, loving, and caring. These are some of the words in Tanya's song, Mighty Woman. And so, and as Tanya said, sometimes you don't feel like it, but it's not about feeling, but the truth of who we are in the Lord. And so that is very encouraging and not about the doing and the performance. And I think a lot of times in life, that's how we maybe compare ourselves to others. Maybe if we're not doing enough, performing enough, as you said, then maybe we feel inadequate, insufficient, etc. And it goes on, right? And so in terms of just being, yes, I am a child of God, and that is enough, that is sufficient. So extremely important what you just said, because a lot of people, struggle with feeling inadequate, insufficient, and sometimes then purpose may not be able to be fulfilled because you think, I don't think I can do it. So thank you for that encouragement. And so, Tanya, I'm wondering, um, through this process, who have you become in the process? So I know that you said from the age of 13, that's when I think you started to lead worship. Is that what you were saying?
Well,
What happened?
I would say 13 would be when I started solo ministry.
Solo
16 would be,
ministry.
yeah, so solo ministry. So that was,
Okay.
I still remember the day when I stood on that, stood beside the piano, and someone who would later on become a mentor over the years. She was like, "Okay, Tanya, I just want you to sing this note." I was
Awesome.
bawling by the time we were done, uh, simply because I'm like, I was kind of scared of my own shadow at that point. But there's been a lot of growth. And I think between the time that I had started, just even the beginning, until now, I think I've learned, and I'm still growing in it. We never
Absolutely.
really arrive.
Exactly.
There's so
Yeah,
much more to explore.
that's right.
I would say I'm at the place in my life right now where even though I'm not perfect and I haven't arrived, I am significantly more comfortable in my skin.
All right.
I'm not really caught up on in trying to impress people or please people. And even when my heart start and my mind tend to go in that direction, like, oh, what are they gonna think? It's like my spirit says, well, what does God say? And what does God think? And so there's that growth and that release that has come that over, it's like exercising a muscle, right? When, for those of you who are remotely interested in getting into fitness or who have simply gone through school phys ed, whatever our experience, you know, when we start exercising our muscles at first, we're like, I don't want to. I
It's
don't
so true. Yeah.
I don't feel like it. Or the times when you go to work or you've had or even if you're stay at home mom and you're working with your kids at home and then you get that break and you're just like, oh, well, I don't exactly feel like doing that 2-hour workout. So in those moments, you're like, oh my goodness, but we choose. So sometimes even in the midst of not feeling it, we choose. And it's the same thing spiritually. Sometimes we don't feel like we are what God says, or we don't feel like even um, it's almost easier to believe the opposite than to choose to say, you know what, I'm going to stand my ground and believe what God says. But I've come to the place now where it's like I've exercised the muscle of God. This is what you said. You said it is written, like Jesus said in Matthew 4, it is written, it is written. It is written. And coming to the place where I've done that, so had to do that so often because I didn't feel like I was adequate, or I didn't, what have you, whatever adjective I could use. I had done it so many times that it became automatic, that I began to, the word that I was adopting or choosing to grab hold of grabbed hold of me. And so I'm now walking in what God has declared. And so now it's not choosing to believe, but now I believe, and I make choices that line up with that new truth. So it's really, really cool. I feel a lot freer. Sometimes people wonder, why are you so happy? Do you drink coffee? And I say, no. I said, you don't drink coffee? How about caffeinated tea? I said, no. You know, I do like the berry teas though. And I like a good matcha and a good green tea. Um, but beyond that, I've never had a cup of coffee. And that in itself is a witnessing tool, let me tell you. I tell people this is all Jesus, the joy that comes from being free when you've been bound for so long and afraid for so long. And then when Jesus comes and just opens the door, opens the gate, and says, come out of that cage and come out of that feeling of you're not blank, you're not blank enough. And then there's this newfound freedom. You can't help but just randomly laugh at things.
That's
In
awesome.
the middle of, I'd be at work and sometimes I'm smiling and I'll just laugh. And they're like, what's going on? Freedom. It's just
Yeah,
absolute
awesome.
freedom. Yeah.
That is amazing. And more importantly, or just to emphasize what you're saying about freedom bringing joy, bringing laughter, right? And that's different from happiness, and that's a whole other conversation. But thank God for freedom. And in that, like, you're free from the opinions of others, and that is vitally important. In this field of being a worshiper and singer songwriter, there may be ladies who are listening who are like, I'm in that field too, or I may want to get into that field. I may want to, release a song. Can you give us about, I would say probably two pieces of advice that can help these ladies, whether they're in the process or they want to get into the process. And I know there's three different roles, right? Being a worshiper, a singer, and a songwriter, but maybe there are pieces of advice that are in common with the three of them. So give us two.
Hmm. Okay. Um, I think I would go to the concept of seizing the opportunities that are right in front of you. Sometimes there are things that are hidden in what we call hidden in plain sight. And so, um, one of the first things that God said to Moses just before he walked out his call to lead the children of Israel, he says, "What do you have in your hand?" And it's simply taking stock of the opportunities that God has put in our lap, that God has set before us. So, for example, when I had no concept of worship leading at all, like I was young, so I joined the school choir. And so I learned about the concept of breathing, breathing differently, and different warm ups, and being able to uh, the concept of blending and harmonies that came into play, and just connecting with people and learning just to appreciate other people's gifts as you cultivate your own, which is another story in itself with us as women, but that's another day. So I think just taking stock of the opportunities that are available to us and just going for it. And I think the second one I would say is do research. And I think going online. So, for example, for me, as a worship leader, like, so reading, like research, it could be reading like different books. It could be going online and seeing what courses are available that can sharpen the gift. So, for me, one thing I wanted to increase my range. I wanted to uh, work on breathing, warm ups, just increase my capacity as a vocalist. And so, I looked online. I said, hey, there are some people who are known for coaching vocalists. I like this. Let me go and see, are they off and then are they offering any programs? Are they within my means? And sometimes we think we have to spend an abundance of money to get, just look at what we have. Looking at what we have is very, very important, and taking stock of that, right?
I like that. I like those two pieces of advice. One, just hidden in plain sight, looking at the opportunities that are before you and just seizing them. And sometimes they're, it may not be in big packages, right? Like ordinary opportunities, but these are opportunities that can help you to grow. And then the second one that you said is increasing your capacity by doing research, taking a course, reading. You could be even probably being like shadow somebody. There's so many different ways that you can increase your capacity. And so great pieces of advice. And ladies, this isn't even only for being a worship leader and a singer and a songwriter. This can be for any field, right? And so that is great, Tanya. And in this field of being a worship leader, a singer, and a songwriter, we have our highs and our lows, our victories and our disappointments. Can you tell us about a challenge that you've had, and what strategies did you use to overcome that challenge?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, it's just more a question of which challenge to choose, right? Um, I think in light of today, I'll just stick with the ones that are most pertinent to what we've been talking about. So I think it would have been just simply going through the process of releasing the actual release process of Mighty Woman. And that was a challenge for a few reasons. First of all, there wasn't anyone there wasn't anyone who was, how do I put this? I didn't have anyone in my sphere who was doing what I was doing per
Mm,
se at the time. And so
mhm,
when you feel like you're a pioneer and
mhm,
you're trying something new, you're wondering, what am I going to do? Where do I begin? Where do I start? And it was a lot of, dear God, help me to find help me to find the right people, to network the right opportunities, help me to make that possible.
mhm,
So that was one thing.
mhm,
Secondly, um, I think once again battling the self doubt and being in the booth, and I think just sometimes in those moments, and this is going to be a continual theme. Whether it's how you look at yourself or what God wants you to do, it is so important to grab a hold of the promises that He's given you. And so for me, there was the promise of the God had called me as herald, and He wanted me to release the various songs that I had written, and not coming from the place of, you can't do it. It's not even about what you think you can't do. God had given me an assignment, and my job, regardless of what I think or feel or perceive, is to follow through on that assignment. So it was all about, okay, no matter what I'm feeling, I'm getting up. I'm going to find a producer, even though I don't feel like someone who should have a producer. Um, so that was another thing. So just constantly grabbing hold of the promise and then doing research over and over and over again, going, okay, what am I going to do? Do I have enough money to do all of these projects? Like, because I had to figure out how I was going to release the music. I had no idea what I was doing. At the time, it was all new. And so there was a lot of things that I had to learn. So being open to just learning, like being open, not being scared of the unknown, but seeing it as an opportunity to grow and spread your wings. And God won't give us any more than we can handle. So we just trust that when God calls us, He equips us, and we're going to get the job done by His grace. He'll give us the right people, He will connect us with the right opportunities. And I happened to talk to the right people at the right time. I found the right producer. And God even supernaturally confirmed that this person would be my producer, which is really cool because I like having the encouragement from God.
that
Um,
is so
so
good.
it's just important just to um, battling the inner dialogue of what do you
Mhm.
think you're doing,
Mhm.
and stepping out into an arena where you didn't think you had enough finances, didn't think you had the wherewithal, thinking you aren't as good as other people who are in the field. But my job is not to do what they do. Like David didn't do that, right? He just said, look, there's a giant there, and the Spirit of God is just stirring up a fire within me to just combat that giant. I might be small, never mind feeling small. I am. This guy is huge, and I'm small. I know that. But the beauty of the testimony is that David looked at his, how do we say, he looked at his previous victories, the
That's right.
victories that God had given him. He said, I've conquered the lion and I've conquered the bear. So I have had previous victories that were similar. They may not be seemingly as large, but
Mhm.
God was just showing me that in this season of life, this is what I helped you overcome. And then this one was a little bigger. And so now I think you're ready for this challenge that's right in
Mhm.
front of us. So sometimes we think, where is this coming from? But God gives us the capacity, ladies. If we look at our track record and we look at, hey, where have I come from? We take stock of God, show me, He'll show us the victories. The fact that we're looking at this video right, or this transmission right now, means you've made it from wherever you were to this moment in time. That is a victory.
Mhm.
That is a victory. And so the grace to endure is a victory. So we just rejoice in what God has done. We rejoice in what God has provided, and we trust that He will continue to provide and give grace. So, yeah.
Amazing. Very encouraging. So much, so much, so much, so much information and great nuggets and so many pointers. But I think one of the points that I want to bring up is just remember, like you said at the end, remembering the victories that you've experienced. And so where you are right now, you are able to overcome that challenge, with the help of the Lord, to be able to overcome it. um I love that you talked about, you were wondering, where am I going to find the producer? What is, like, how am I supposed to do all of this? But God was able to give you what you needed, the resources, human resources, tangible resources, to be able to figure out the process. And the song was released. And sometimes you said, sometimes you were like, I don't feel like, okay, whatever it is. But you said, no, there's an assignment I need to fulfill because God has given me this assignment. And so, ladies, you may feel like that today in this season, that you have an assignment and you just don't feel like it for whatever reason. But if God has given you the assignment, He will also, He will provide you with the resources, the grace, to be able to fulfill that assignment. And so be encouraged. And it's to remind you that there's a part that you need to play, action you need to take, but God will be with you along this journey. Man, there's so many more questions I want to ask, but time is running out. So, Tanya, can you? I'm so grateful that you shared this information with us. You shared about your journey and what you've been through. It hasn't been easy, but who you have become, you've grown into a woman. As you said, you are free, a woman who is experiencing joy, and you've released your first song. You're able to encourage us based on where you have come from, and the experiences you've had. This has been a great conversation. And or I am praying for more success for you with your second release, and many more songs to come that God will give you, that are, and songs that are stirring up in your heart to encourage those around you. Can you tell us how we can connect with you on social media? Because there may be some who are like, okay, I've got a question to ask her or a comment to make, how can they connect with you on social media? Please share.
Okay. Well, I am present on Facebook or would you say in or on? I would say on Facebook.
On, yes.
I would say on Facebook and on Instagram as well. And you could do a search for either one. So for Instagram, it would be at the at sign and then Tania, so Tania, and then Adderley, ADD, so add, ER as in LEY, and then music right at the end, MUSIC. So at Tania Adderley Music. You can also do a search for Facebook. Similarly, it's if you just type Tania Adderley Music, I will pop up. I'll be right there, the shining face, ready to say God loves you. So both are there. At Tania Adderley Music for Instagram, Tania with an I, Adderley, Adderley Music, MUSIC, and then Facebook. You can just type the same Tania space Adderley space music space, and I will be there.
Awesome. And so, just to remind you, ladies, Tanya's first release is called Mighty Woman. And so, one of the platforms is YouTube. So, after this, or when you have a chance, please listen to the song and be encouraged by the words that are on there. Tanya, before we come to a close, I just want to remind the audience, ladies, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to Rise with Hope on my YouTube channel. There are many other conversations that I've had with other powerful women this summer spotlight series. And also, there are videos on Bible devotions and just messages to encourage you. Check it out, click subscribe. Thank you for your support. And next week, we have another powerful woman. Her name is Alana Craig, and she is the founder of Noah Naturals. And so stay tuned for that conversation, same time and same evening, Thursday evening. I think that is it. Ladies, this has been a wonderful conversation. Tanya, thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for just sharing and being transparent about your journey. Awesome. I've been empowered and encouraged. And I'm remembering something that you said about increasing capacity. And so I'm going to keep that in mind. And also about having to do with sharpening my gifts, because where we are, we don't want to stay there, but we want to grow.
Yeah.
Right. And so thank you so much, Tanya. Do you have any last words of encouragement, one piece of encouragement before we say bye to the ladies?
I think one of the best ways to be empowered and encouraged is to remember who you are and whose you are. So remember before anything else, you are a daughter of the King. You're a daughter of God, and He loves you. And He couldn't love you any more or less because He loves you 100%. So you are loved and you are accepted, and let that be your empowerment today.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Have a good